Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Marie and myself, Coach David Syvertson. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. All right. Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertson, and I have two really special guests, two guys that have been on the podcast multiple times now. We have Dan Cota, a Masters athlete, a quarterfinal, semifinalist, someone on Team USA for a competition in Aruba coming up this fall. Also a coach at CrossFit Bison, a client of Rafi. And we have Rafi, who is the founder, president, the mastermind of Peak Mind Performance, a mindfulness coach that both Dan and I have worked with. A few people at Bison have worked with, and he has clients outside of the gym in a lot of different areas. It goes beyond sports and athletics and CrossFit. I'll let him touch on that if he wants to. But we have an event coming up at CrossFit Bison on Saturday, June 20th. And it's late morning. It's I think, Rafi, I think we said 10:45 to 12 p.m., somewhere in that time frame. And so it's still going to be an AM operation. We're going to not go into the afternoon. And it's called Calm in the Chaos. And I'm going to let Rafi really touch on what it is. But before we do that, I want to introduce the concept of mindfulness from a CrossFitter perspective using Dan. And Dan right now I've told him personally, so this is not just saying this on this podcast, he's doing really well right now with his performance in a lot of different ways. And I know that when we go up and down with performance, it's always a combination of things. Or if we go backwards, it's usually a combination of things. But I do think part of Dan's story of why he's doing so well right now is the mindfulness factor. So I really want to open this up with Dan, who's not involved in planning Calm in the Chaos. I want him to touch on what mindfulness training has done for him, any new perspectives that he has.
So I'll start by saying, like, when I first got involved with Rafi and mindfulness, I was expecting that, I would train my mind to be tougher and I would be, able to just run through walls now because my mind is so strong. But definitely, what I've learned over the last year and change is a lot about mindfulness. It's more about understanding the kind of, sorry, this is I'm trying to think it all together. We've gone through so much, but just being more
mindful,
being more aware of where your mind is at in the present moment. I think that is like one of the biggest things that I learned is that as I was, keeping this to CrossFit, as I was in the middle of a workout and my mind would start to wander or start to go towards the pain or start to, think about, oh man, that guy next to me is beating me and I'm so terrible at this, and all that negativeness that was really like infiltrating my brain. I started to, as we've worked on this and started to learn about mindfulness, about meditation, about spending time with yourself with nothing else going on, which can be, pretty difficult the more time you put into it. That because of the ability to understand that my mind is going to wander. It's going to go places. It's going to want to tell me things that, oh, this hurts, or, oh, that person's beating you, or, all those things. I can kind of find a place of control in that. I've learned that by recognizing those thoughts, I can now say, okay, I understand that I might be feeling that way, but it's totally fine. And it's going to go away, and I'm going to keep moving on, and I'm going to stay in this workout, and I'm going to stay focused. And I mean, I definitely have some examples that I can touch on of, like, even before and after. I've done the Masters Fitness Championships a few years now, I think 3 total. 2 of those years, the last day final workout was in the exact same position. In 2023, I was in a position to podium. I needed my last workout to go well. I needed to perform, beat out a few other guys, probably be in the top 3 of the workout. And I remember before that workout, I was laying on the floor, headphones on, really trying to focus, trying to amp myself up, trying to, get through this workout. But where my mind was really at was in fear. I was worried about, I'm not gonna be able to beat these guys. This workout's gonna hurt so bad. Can I get through this? This might not be a great strength for me. And I went into that workout with that same mindset, and I did really poorly. I think I came middle of the pack. I lost the podium. It was a huge disappointment for me. And then in 2025, after working with Rafi, I was in the exact same position. Final day, I think I was in second place, but I needed to, it was within like a few points between second and fifth, I think. So I needed to perform well. And I remember being starting to see that fear coming, but this time recognizing it and telling myself, that's totally fine. I can be afraid, but I know I put myself in a position through all my training to do well now. So I'm just going to focus on that, on what I can do and not what anybody else can do. And I was super calm. I was very just being myself, which is, I've learned that in competition, I'd rather be out talking to people, being happy-go-lucky versus being really tough and tight in my own space. And I went into that workout and I crushed it. I think I came second by a few seconds in that workout, and took second place in the competition, which was a huge accomplishment for me.
Yeah. And that's a sign of progress. And I know when Rafi introduced this to me, it's hard not to look at it from, this is going to make me better. I'm going to make the games, or I'm going to win this competition, or I'm going to PR this lift. That's what we look at from nutritional, from sleep, from technique perspectives, these videos we watch, the coaches we hire. How am I going to get better from this? And one thing I've realized over the years, that is part of it, but it's deeper than that. And it's great to hear Dan's story. He had success from this, right? That's a cool story, podium, all this stuff, right? What we all dream about as competitors. But one thing I reflected on leading up to this episode and what we have coming up are the negatives that you go through and what mindfulness gets you through that. Example, this past semifinal, I got injured on the second event to the point where I couldn't do the rest of semifinals. And I hate to be that guy, but the semifinals lined up very well for me programming this year. And I really think I could have been in the running to qualify in the top 15. And, everyone gets discouraged when you get hurt. I was discouraged, but I did not fall apart at all. It's almost to the point where someone asked me, is like, wow, you don't seem that upset. And I was like, I took that as a win. I took that as my success marker, because I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago where my video went out and we were doing that miserable wall ball burpee box jump over workout. And I'm still to this day embarrassed by how I acted. I got really angry and I threw a temper tantrum. I hit the whiteboard, which is still to this day broken. I kicked a foam roller up in the air and missed Cheryl Battle's head by an inch, and I screamed and I yelled and I was saying bad words. All right. And again, that I feel like in this situation where I get hurt, I go outside and 5 minutes later, I'm making a joke. And the thing I was most worried about was I was moving the next week and I had to get my snowplow out of my driveway. And I was like, how am I going to get this thing on my truck? Because there's a deadlift involved in moving that snowplow. And I just remember it was what it was. I got injured, and that's what sports are. And you kind of have to at some point get over it and move on and laugh about it and look into maybe try to figure out why. But I think the mindfulness training, when you start off, it's not what you think it is 2 years down the road. And I think that's a really cool element to starting, is everyone thinks they're an expert. When they start CrossFit, they feel like they figured it out after a year or two. And we all know, Coda, especially you and I, I'm telling you this right now, if you're 5 years into CrossFit, you don't know shit. You have no idea what you're talking about. And that to me, but that in a good way, there's so much to obtain. And I relate this to mindfulness right now. I'm going to say, I still don't fully understand it, but I see new elements to it affecting my life in and out of the gym that I'm a believer in it, but I'm also knowing that I'm very beginner level with this stuff. So Rafi, let's talk about, because we have a lot of people signed up for Calming the Chaos. Last I checked, it was 22 that are signed up for Calming the Chaos. I think it'll be more. And There's some people on the fence. I've had a few people ask about it. A lot of them are going to be very new to this concept, where they're probably going to think about meditation. They're going to think about, mentally present, eyes shut, hands up in the air, humming to yoga music, right? Explain to us, without giving up the cards, what is calm in the chaos?
Well, I mean, I love to listen to the both of you guys reflect on what has occurred over the last 2-3 years working with you guys, because I just want to point out, as we transition into talking about what the particular Calm in the Chaos seminar is about, it's about creating the conditions where the things that we care about don't change our identity based on the results. That's ultimately what mindfulness and meditation does. In both scenarios that you both brought up, you didn't talk about caring less, about actually succeeding in the thing that you were pursuing. What you both brought up was your relationship to the result shifted. And I think ultimately the practice of mindfulness is pretty simple and yet not easy. It's about learning to bring your attention to the present moment. And when you see what arises, is it possible to see what arises without bias or judgment? And so ultimately, in both scenarios that you brought up, what came to fruition was an injury, or I need to succeed in this workout to be able to podium. Though that's just what is arising. It's our judgment that we put on that, which is, I got injured, now I can't be a good person, or I'm ruined, or it creates this identity around the success of what you were doing in semifinals. Or for you, Dan, which is like, I need to succeed in this podium, otherwise my training up until this point wasn't worth it. When those thoughts arise and you're able to look at them almost neutrally, as if they're just thoughts, and you have enough calm to be able to recognize that they go away on their own, it allows enough space for you to then say, okay, well, what do I do now? What's this new moment? And so the Calm in the Chaos seminar and everything that we do with mindfulness is really introducing and demystifying what mindfulness actually is. And it's not just sitting on the cushion, breathing, meditating, humming and hawing, whatever. Mindfulness is everything that we put our attention on. And so it's the way I train people, and the way I like to train people, is integrative. I call it mindfulness in the wild. And so I really break down the training into practical terms, which is, first we have to understand what mindfulness actually is, not what we think it is. We also need to understand, how do you do it? How do you practice it on and off the cushion? And then you have to understand, well, how do I integrate it and how do I apply it? And so by bringing it into a seminar space where you get up off the cushion, you put it into practice, it's a direct way of showing you the example of what the purpose of sitting on the cushion and meditating is for, which I think a lot of people get those things confused. They think that it's about chasing calm, but really it's about finding calm within the chaos. And that's why we named it that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm trying to relate this. I always try to look at things from the perspective other than our own. And when you start CrossFit, you learn how to air squat before you back squat, before you front squat, before you overhead squat. You learn how to do a snatch with a PVC pipe before you put a training bar in, before you put a barbell, before you put weights on a barbell. That whole concept, and this is where we can tie this to CrossFit, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, in terms of mechanics first, like the mechanics of mindfulness, getting consistent with it, and then you can apply the quote intensity to it. And I see you before you worked out today. I guess we could talk about Dark Week now, because the Dark Week workout, because by the time this comes out, the workout will be done in the rearview mirror. Before Rafi's 1,600 meter row at the start of the workout, that was for time. You see him practicing his mindfulness right before, like, and that's something that's now because he's experienced, because he's applied the mechanics, because he's gotten the consistency. That's where the intensity can come in, and that, like, hey, I don't need 5 minutes. I don't need 10 minutes. I don't need to be sitting on the cushion. I could do it sitting on the rower with my shirt off 2 minutes before a hard workout. And that's where
my shirt was off just before. So was yours. Just
yeah.
so you, it was hot at the gym.
It was hot today. But Dan, let's talk about you, because Rafi, again, is an RX plus caliber mindfulness guy, right? Where
you know what? I want to interrupt, Dave. I am not really. I maybe compared to all of us, but I'm still on my path as well. So,
well, I say that about Bison. We have some really good athletes at Bison, but I put you in the right room, you're not good, and like, that's like, compared to us, I think you have a stronger level of understanding of it. But no, I'm not going to say you're better at mindfulness than us. Just like I wouldn't say Coach Bobby is better at CrossFit than other people. Like, it doesn't need to go in that discussion, but I would say you're more experienced and maybe have a different level of understanding. Dan, you're working your way there. I'm working my way there. Can you touch on, from a CrossFit perspective, how much this has helped you just like right before a workout, right during a workout? I know you kind of touched on that example from your competition, but on your day-to-day, is it something that you're putting attention on, energy towards, you're planning out your designated time for that? Is it something that comes naturally to you? Do you really need to set a timer for yourself? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like the practice of mindfulness and meditation, I try to do that once a day at home, usually 5 to 10 minutes. And then while I'm at the gym, there's definitely a big part of mindfulness that I'm doing every day there. A lot of it has to do with taking the sorry, lost my train of thought. Taking the pressure off myself of having to do really well in this specific workout or this specific lift. Like, maybe, not every day has to be a PR. And that's definitely where my mind has used to be. Like, I have to be better today. I have to do better. But I've learned that today I'm curious where my body's at today. Like, I'm wondering what my back squat might be, or my clean and jerk might be, or I wonder, is my row going to be as good as normally today? Like, it's more of I've come from a place of curiosity in my daily workouts versus pressure. And that's making a huge change in my overall training. I've always loved to train. That's been, I think, part of my strength is I literally love being in the gym with everybody every day. Yeah. But there used to be a lot of negativity that came with that. And the biggest thing of mindfulness in my daily every day is that negativity is, in the most part, totally gone. Yeah. And so, when I'm there every day next to everybody and we're training, there's just much more of a curiousness to it all than a pressure of like, I have to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And mine actually, I really feel like where I've been very aware of, like, in my mindfulness training, is gratitude. Like, that's where I feel thankful for the random person in zone number 4 that didn't talk to me before class and I didn't talk to before class. They might not even know my name, but I'm grateful that they're there, right? You're grateful for the music, even if you don't like it. You're grateful for a coach that put a thoughtful warm-up together so that you can kind of get ready. I mean, all these things, there's so much to be grateful for. And when you are in that state of mind prior to a workout, it's amazing what it can dial you into just being loose, free, and easy, and just kind of letting go of, like what you said, having to hit a score. And I like that perspective because I've coached, I'm in a unique position out of this 3 right here. I've coached people, some of these people in our gym, for 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. And a lot of people, their lives have changed, the bodies have changed, their capabilities have changed. Let's be real about that. And you see a lot of this where they're so fixated on what they used to be able to do. They can't escape it. That's like, literally, I feel like in some cases, it's the only thing people can think about when they're at the gym, what they used to look like, how many reps they can do, what weights they can do, and you physically hear it. It's not oh, I'm reading their mind, right? Because that's dangerous to do. I hear it. I hear stuff like that weekly, and I get it, but I wonder sometimes. I'm like, you try to like bring them down to earth and say like, you're awesome. Be grateful. Think about how many people give up already around our age, your friends, your family. Like they're so afraid of not being able what they used to be able to do that they're realizing giving up is they're going to wish they could do what they're doing right now in 5 years. Why not just try to stay where you're at and be grateful for what you can do? Be grateful you have the opportunity. Be grateful you have the money to pay for a membership here. I mean, all of these, be grateful that there's a class time where it fits with your schedule. And when you actually are mindful of these thoughts that go left and right, up and down, I guarantee it makes the entire experience better. It makes you better outside the gym. And then you start to realize the one thing I'm trying to apply more mindfulness is to outside of the gym, not just the workouts. Oh, I feel better and I'm more free and easy when I move. Like, cool. But I want to get better at applying it to life in general, running a business, running 2 gyms, running, having meetings with staff and then owners and getting texts at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. and like trying to really be better at having better mindfulness practice and being grateful for that rather than I got to go in, it's my morning off, but I got to go in. Someone's sick, that kind of stuff. So Rafi, let's really kind of get into more common to chaos. Where are we trying to take this, right? Because I am involved with this with you. I'm going to be on the workout side. I'm going to be help coaching, but this is your thing where you're running. And what are you and I, what's the end goal for this? What are we trying to do? Is it just for Bison? Is it for the broad CrossFit community? Is it for people outside of CrossFit? What are we thinking here?
Well, I really love CrossFit, as we all know. I've drank the Kool-Aid, and even Sivan said that when I was on the podcast there. But there's a reason why I love CrossFit beyond just the exercise. There is so much built into the methodology and framework of the system of exercising amongst community that is in alignment with everything that I believe, with my mindfulness work, with my aspirations as a coach, as a teacher, as a performer, as an actor, as a husband, father, you name it. The fact that CrossFit wouldn't exist if it wasn't for everyone and like the community itself. I've done workouts where I've shown up at 7 p.m. and it's just been me, and it's fine. It's me and a coach, but there is something like today when there was 25 of us in the gym at all different levels doing the exact same thing and pushing our limits. That's number one. Number two, I think about this all the time and I use this as an example, the hero WODs. The fact that CrossFit has workouts that are named after people that have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and that we then get to do those workouts. It's not have to. We get to do those workouts in dedication of those people for the sacrifice that they made for us. I'm Buddhist. That is the most Buddhist thing you could imagine. It's about a lot of people come to me and ask me, I'm looking for my why. Right there's your why. The fact is, like, you push just a little bit extra every time because you have something in mind that is beyond self. And when everybody's doing that together, like Murph, it's a wonderful thing to see beyond the community of CrossFit, everybody doing Murph around the country, dedicating to this one person who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And we can do a version of that every single day in CrossFit. Every workout is a dedication, not to somebody that has passed away or fallen, but what you're talking about with gratitude and all this, it's a beyond self thing. I work out because not just to see my ultimate capacity, there is another why there too. And that why is You don't know the people that you're inspiring by showing up. Like bringing up that workout that you smashed the whiteboard and had the temper tantrum.
Yep.
What we talked about then was how you show up beyond that. That type of resilience is inspiring. It was inspiring to me. I can't speak for Dan, but I bet it was inspiring for him. The way you lead, the way you show up and push yourself every day through things that people don't understand. So CrossFit has it built in. And my aspiration with Calm in the Chaos and working with mindfulness in particular, in conjunction with CrossFit, is to expand it into the larger epicenter, like the universe of CrossFit, because it's so parallel. It has such a direct line there. And I think the misconception of mindfulness is also the misconception of mind training within CrossFit, which is we need to get tougher in our minds. We need to grit through things. And I'm not to say there isn't grit involved. That is built in to the workouts. But there is a way to understand beyond why are we going after those calories on the Echo bike. And mindfulness is such a wonderful balance of that because it opens up the clarity within all that. So we understand why we are pursuing CrossFit, what the games were initially about, which was a celebration of community and the inspiration of these young people in our gym that are like pursuing their excellence physically. It expands well beyond the gym. And I'm constantly posting on Instagram more than a gym because it's true. It is more than a gym. And I've mentioned this before, but I just was on the red carpet. You know, I'm not no humble brag here, but like I was on the red carpet for Fallout Season 2 and I was scared to go on there. I'll be honest. I was really scared to walk out on the red carpet because all I started thinking about was the entertainment industry and the people within it who were judging him. Does he belong on there? Should he not be on there? And in that moment, when I was meditating, I had a moment of stillness. Everybody at Bison came to mind. And I thought about my community at the gym at Bison and how those people are going to see me on the red carpet and cheer for me, not from their own ego, but because I was one of them and they were proud and happy for me. And that then made me feel confident to go out there because I remembered what it was that I was going home to, not the people that were on the red carpet. And that gave me actual strength, which is counterintuitive when we're about to go up there and lift a heavy barbell. We think we got to grit our teeth and push through it. But when you have that actual perspective of why you're doing this, and it's beyond just lifting that weight and showing that you're tough, it could really build. And so my aspiration with Calm in the Chaos and working with you and is to expand this to the larger CrossFit universe as a whole.
Yeah. And I agree with you that I believe the market is there searching for it. It's not something that you're going to force down their throat and they can't apply it. I actually think CrossFit is such a hard fitness program. It's a hard fitness regimen. That's part of the reason why people don't want to do it or they're intimidated. It's hard. It's really difficult. And the 10 components, the 10 general skills of CrossFit, right? Cardiovascular endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy. There's nothing mental in there. You can apply mental to all of those, but there should be a component to it, especially in a market where it's hard to hold on to people past 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. How many 10-year CrossFitters are there out there? And yes, you can blame the fitness industry being a fat industry as part of the issue, but I think it's partially we're all 10 years older. And we hear this every week at the gym too. Like, I feel this, I feel that. Like, yeah, biology, you're getting older. But there's a mental approach to it. It's amazing how you don't hear some people ever talk about it, but you always hear the same people talk about it. It's amazing how you never hear the 50 and 60-year-olds talk about it, but you hear the 39-year-olds talk about it twice a week. And there's a mental component to it that you can call it maturity, or you can call it they're wired mentally better. They're already in some ways probably practicing mindfulness and they don't even realize it. So now multiply that by the entire CrossFit landscape, that if you really do have an avenue for CrossFitters to train that mental side, to mindfulness side, I think it could help affiliates, because I'll tell you what, I've been doing this a long time. I think there's some credibility. I think 8 out of 10 people that leave CrossFit, they just mentally can't handle it anymore. Yes, every now and then someone moves away. Someone then, their body can't handle it, like literally, right? A neck problem, a spine problem, a shoulder. But then again, we have 15 people that have bounced back better than ever from a shoulder surgery. I think the reason why people flip-flop between fitness programs or leave fitness programs, they can't hang mentally. And you don't like hearing that because you have a lot going on. You're stressed out. You're an adult, right? You can't handle it mentally. That's why you left. And maybe it's something that this could help affiliates in their business. If you even want to look at it from a financial perspective, that your retention rate will be better if all of your members and coaches especially have some sort of training behind them. Because we see progress with squatting and deadlifting and pressing and gymnastics and Olympic lifting. Why? Because we practice it. We practice every component to it every week. We spend 10 minutes talking about how to hold a freaking barbell on a snatch, right? Imagine we trained the mind. And at some point, you're going to need it because your body can't keep up. No offense, everyone. Your body ain't going to be able to keep up at some point. But if you have the mental trained to your peak, like if you actually reach a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 mentally, you're unstoppable at some point. And little things stop mattering. Your score, what your how lean you are, it stops mattering. It's what you're grateful, you're curious. What can you hold on to? You're grateful for the things around you. You're happier. You're more pleasant to be around. You're not complaining about workouts that are tough. So that's where I actually think this can help business. If affiliate owners out there and coaches, if you want to look at it from that perspective, rather than I want to help people, go for it. Like, that's part of what we think this can do for you. So if anyone's on the fence about, do they want to sign up for Calm the Chaos on June 20th at 10:45 a.m. at CrossFit Bison, members or non-members, by the way, if you listen and you're not a member, you can send me a message on Instagram. You can send CrossFitBison@gmail.com. We'll get you in. All right. We'll figure that out for free, because we need some practice at running a seminar like this. So we're actually kind of asking people that if you're free in that Saturday, June 20, 10:45 to 12, we'd like you to come, even if you have no interest in mind, because we want good feedback. We want bad feedback. We want good feedback, because it's something that we believe in, and it's something that we think we can take to a much higher level in a CrossFit landscape that really does need it.
Yes, I agree. And I mean, look, talking about it from the perspective of a business, community is built around business, and that's what it is. It's like business is built around community. That's ultimately what I meant.
Yeah.
Because if you have members that do get injured, or you have members that do fall off physically, but they still want to contribute to the community, like showing up and judging, or showing up and, taking videos, or showing up and asking people for help. The community at Bison at large runs around that, and that is the engine. It's not just all the people that make semis. It's the engine of the community, of the quiet people that are in the corner who show up every day at 5 a.m. That's the kind of thing that is, once you put a name to it and you can actually train that within your affiliate, it'll make a huge difference. It's an ROI that you can't quantify, but does exist and should exist, especially in a world now where we're so forced to be so isolated in our own screens, and our own phones, in our own worlds, in our own me, my eyes. And so this is an opportunity to try and expand that, expose that. So when the coach is standing up there at the whiteboard and they use the word mindful, which everybody does, mindfully pick up the bar or mindfully check, they know what they're saying and they know what they mean.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for the time this afternoon. And I, this is something that the three of us believe in. I think the three of us have gotten better because of it. And we would really appreciate anyone that, if you're free, just come and give it a shot and come in with that curious, but also grateful mindset that there's something you're going to get out of this. We're not going to ask for a credit card or a payment after. I think you're going to get something out of it, and we will benefit from working with you with some of the future plans that we have from it. So thanks again for the time, fellas, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.